Welcome back, MMA fans. Thank you as always for joining. This is part 2 of a 2-part series for the upcoming UFC on ESPN 5 event happening this Saturday, August 3rd out of Newark, New Jersey. If you haven't already, please go check out part 1 where I cover the first 4 fights on the main card. During this episode, we're going to be covering the co-main event and the main event. So Clay Guida versus Jim Miller and Colby Covington versus ruthless Robbie Lawler. And if you haven't already, please subscribe if you like what you see. So for our 5th fight, our co-main event, Jim A10 Miller versus the Carpenter, Clay Guida, coming to you out of the lightweight division. Jim Miller, minus 185 favorite in this fight. He's 35 years old, 5'8", 71-inch reach, 30-13 MMA record. Jim went on sort of a bad stretch there for a little over a year, 2017, early 2018. He lost 4 fights in a row, all 4 fights against studs, by the way. But since then, he's 2-1. His last 3 fights, and he's coming off of a first-round submission over Jason Gonzalez. He's been really looking really good again. Clay Guida, 37 years old, man, 5'7", 70-inch reach, 35-18 MMA record. Clay's been fighting really well lately too. Since 2017, he's 3-1 in the UFC, and he's coming off of a good win over BJ Penn in May. So when it comes to striking, neither of these guys are knockout artists. Clay's got 7 knockouts out of his 35 wins. Jim's got 4 knockouts in his 30 wins. So I don't expect we're going to be seeing a knockout come Saturday night. I give the speed advantage to Clay Guida. He's always been one of the faster, more aggressive strikers in the octagon or in the UFC, really. But the technical advantage I give to Jim. Man, he's got a really good jab. He throws good leg kicks, and I think that's going to be key in this fight for Jim Miller is throwing leg kicks to slow down Clay Guida. I mean, Clay is all about movement and pressure. And so if you take his legs out from under him, that's I think key for Jim Miller in this fight. So, the longer this fight goes, though, the better chance Clay Guida has at maybe getting some sort of stoppage via strikes. Jim's last 4 fights have all ended in the first round. So it's been a while since Jim's sort of been dragged through the muddy water. And I think if Clay's able to do that, take this fight into, late second, third round, Clay's always had excellent cardio. And so I don't expect his striking or his output really to slow down at all as we get sort of into the third round. So I think the longer this fight goes, if it stays standing, Clay's going to look better and better. When it comes to grappling, though, Jim Miller's got the clear advantage here, guys. Jim has always been a very good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu expert and executioner in the UFC, and this has sort of been Clay's disadvantage. Not that Clay doesn't have good grappling skills, he does. Clay's a very good wrestler, but Clay's lost 18 times in his MMA career. 9 of them have been by submission, so half of Clay's losses have come via submission, and that's Jim Miller's bread and butter. So my prediction for this fight, I think that both of these guys have been looking good later in their careers, but I think that Jim Miller here in the second round, once Clay maybe starts to slow down a tad, Jim gets the second round submission victory over Clay Guida. And now it's time for our main event of the evening, coming to you out of the welterweight division. The return of number 2 ranked contender Colby Covington versus number 11 ruthless Robbie Lawler. I am so excited for this fight, guys. Vegas odds, betting odds for this fight. Colby Covington, minus 230 favorite. So Robbie Lawler, the fan favorite here, kickboxer, wrestler, legend of the game. He's been competing since 2001. One of the most exciting fighters on the UFC roster. He's now 37 years old, 5'11", 74-inch reach, 28-13 MMA record. Unfortunately, he's lost 3 out of his last 4 fights, including 2 in a row. The last one against Ben Askren, the one before that against RDA. Colby Covington, 31 years old, fighting out of American Top Team. Robbie Lawler's former camp. Covington, he's a former California State High School Wrestling Champion, former JUCO National Champion, and Division I All-American. He's 5'11", 72-inch reach, 14-1 MMA record, coming off 6 straight wins, including his most recent domination of Rafael dos Anjos. So when it comes to striking, when it comes to power, output, accuracy, Robbie Lawler's got the advantage here in the striking department, guys. Robbie lands 3.93 significant strikes per minute. That's 46% accuracy compared to Colby's 3.26 significant strikes per minute, 39% accuracy. Robbie's KO'd 20 of his 27 wins. That's 71% of his victories come by knockout compared to Colby's 2 out of 14. So that's 14% of Colby's wins coming by way of knockout. So this is clearly Robbie's pathway to victory is in the striking department. He needs to hurt Colby. He needs to punish Colby on the feet. Colby's going to be throwing combinations and moving into him as he always does. While he's doing that, Robbie needs to throw bombs and to let Colby know that you can't just bum rush me. You can't just take me down. You got to get through these hands and through these knees. So Robbie's clear pathway to victory in this fight is to inflict damage on Colby standing up. And if anybody can, man, Robbie Lawler is one of the guys who can. But it won't be that easy. So let's take a look at the defensive statistics heading into this fight. First off, Colby only absorbs 2.2 significant strikes per minute. Compare that to Robbie Lawler, who absorbs 5.5 significant strikes per minute. So Colby has great defense. He doesn't always necessarily keep his hands up, and he's not afraid to take a punch either. Colby's got a really good chin, but he only gets hit with a little over 2 significant strikes per minute. Secondly, Colby's never been knocked out. I mean, hell, he's only lost once in his career. But I don't even remember seeing him dazed. I mean, guys, comment below if you can point out a fight where Colby Covington got hit in the head and was dazed or dizzy at all, because I can't recall any of those fights. Rafael dos Anjos hit him with 1 or 2 good body shots in that fight, but Colby didn't flinch and he certainly wasn't dazed. So, it's not going to be that easy for Robbie, considering those 2 statistics. And guys, I also don't want to do MMA math. I'm not always a big fan of MMA math. Fighting is always about matchups and styles. But Rafael dos Anjos beat Robbie Lawler via unanimous decision in December of 2017. And 6-7 months later, in June of 2018, Colby Covington ran through Rafael dos Anjos. So again, not always the biggest fan of MMA math, but they recently, and within a 6-7 month window, had a common opponent. Robbie lost to him, unanimous decision. Colby won, unanimous decision. So, again, Robbie, striking advantage, best pathway to victory, but he's 37 years old. He absorbs a lot of shots, and he's facing a guy who doesn't get hit a lot. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the stand-up matchup here in this fight. Grappling, though, clear discrepancy. I mentioned Colby's wrestling accolades earlier. Those are going to play a significant role in this fight. Colby is a pressure fighter. He throws combinations while closing the distance. He gets his hands on you and he goes for the takedown. He tries to sky you, slam you, and inflict ground and pound and submissions. He lands, listen to this, Colby lands 5.6 takedowns per 15 minutes compared to Robbie, who lands less than 1 takedown per 15 minutes. So people will say, well, Robbie's got some of the best takedown defense in the entire division. Does he? So Robbie's takedown defense is 69%. So that's roughly 2 out of 3 takedowns he's stuffing. Well, that means 1 out of 3 of Colby's takedowns he's going to land. And I guarantee you, Colby's going to be shooting 1, maybe 2 takedowns, maybe per minute in this fight. And if he's landing 1 out of 3, guys, he's getting Robbie Lawler to the ground. And when that happens, I don't think that's a good... That's very good for Robbie Lawler. Colby Covington finishes 30% of his fights via submission. So I think if and when Colby Covington is able to take Robbie Lawler down to the ground, granted he doesn't get knocked out, early on into this fight, he's got a good shot at finishing it on the ground, or at least having significant control time on the ground, inflicting some ground and pound, bloodying Robbie up. I mean, Robbie's always bleeding in these fights. So there's a lot of different things that Colby can do from a grappling perspective in this fight that I think is his obvious clear pathway to victory. Colby does not want to stand and bang with Robbie Lawler. So he's got to close the distance. He's got to go for those takedowns, ground and pound, submissions. That's his pathway to victory. So my prediction for this fight, I think that by the end of it, both of these guys are a bloody mess. And I think has a very good chance, to be fight of the night. This one and also the Silva Nasrat fight are both my picks for fight of the night. So both guys bloody mess by the end of it. I think Colby Chaos Covington comes out with a unanimous decision. I think the spread is pretty accurate at -230. And I think that if the UFC does the right thing, Colby is set for a matchup against Kamaru Snoozman, as Colby likes to call him. I think it's well-deserved. If he gets through Robbie Lawler, Colby Covington absolutely deserves a fight against Kamaru Usman. I don't think Jorge Masvidal does. I don't know what all that talks about, guys. Masvidal lost 2 fights in a row before winning his 2 previous fights. I understand both his previous fights were via knockout, but guys, he's won 2 fights in a row. That's it. I don't think he deserves a title shot. I don't think Leon Edwards is there yet. I think that the clear and obvious choice for the next matchup against Kamaru Usman is Colby Chaos Covington. And they've got beef. I mean, they almost fought in like the lobby of the MGM or wherever they were. So anyway, that about wraps up my analysis and predictions for UFC on ESPN 5, guys. Thank you very much, as always, for tuning in. If you haven't already, please click the subscribe button. And if you liked what you saw, maybe give me a little thumbs up too. But most importantly, as always, comment below. Let me know who you think's going to win, how you think they're going to win, and why you think they're going to win. And I always do my best to comment and engage with all of you who comment on these. So thanks as always. We'll see you next time.